something to say.
Hello everybody, how are you doing today? My name's Charlie. You might know me better as sci-fi fantasy writer C.E. Dorset, especially if you're reading my new book, Crucify My Love, or listening to the I'm done already. The companion podcast, Mask of the Gods, which should be available wherever you listen to your fine podcasts, and if it's not, let me know. You'll actually, if you go to maskofthegods.com, you'll see a button that if yours isn't there, you can actually request, and we'll make sure that happens. I came up with an idea for the podcast today that was so controversial, I have a guest. Hi.
Good evening.
Yeah, who are you?
I'm I'm just kidding. It's Brian.
That's my husband. He is in on the show today because, I'm presuming y'all listened to my Game of Thrones review that posted yesterday. Because I had feels. He did not have as strong a feels as I had. Though, maybe other people brought you around. Who knows? We'll see. But I had strong feels. So, I have a big question today. And that is, does that movie, that episode, prove that we can't trust Dan and Dave, the showrunners, who do Game of Thrones, with an entire Star Wars trilogy? So we'll be discussing that in just a minute. And there will be Game of Thrones spoilers, so be warned if you don't want anything spoiled, because several of the things that I'm really going to take umbrage with, I kind of have to talk about stuff that happened on the show. But before we get into all that, if you haven't already, and the app that you are listening to me on allows you to do it, please rate this episode or this podcast. It helps me out a lot. It tells the algorithm to share the podcast with more people. And that's just a good thing. And thank you to everybody who's done that. We now have enough ratings on Apple Podcast to have a rating on Apple Podcast. Yay! Woo! So, woohoo. Thank you for that. That's awesome. We're a 5-star podcast, and it's all because of you. And thank you for that. So, Game of Thrones spoilers will be peppered through the dialogue from now on, incoming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you've been warned. I don't want to hear anything. No complaints. Okay, so my basic thing is where they messed up in this episode was entirely in the special effects driven armies and the dragon fight and basically everything that involves special effects and grand epic fighting, which they have traditionally been good at grand epic fighting, but not so much with this episode, and especially when they had to rely on so much CG, i.e. with the dragons and all the fire and everything. And that really worries me when it comes to them making a Star Wars trilogy, because they've been put in charge of the next Star Wars trilogy. After Rise of the Skywalker, we are not going to be doing any more Skywalker films, at least not for a while, until they realize that they're going to bring them back and do 3 more, because remember George said he wasn't going to do any more, and then we got episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then he was like, no, there's not going to be any more, it's not going to happen. Then he sold it to Disney, and Disney made it. Eventually they'll make more Skywalker movies, because that's just the natural order of things. It'll just take 20 to 30 years. But the next thing after Rise of the Skywalker is going to be a trilogy written by Benioff and Weiss. And I don't know if we can trust them now. I really don't know.
So for me, okay, I'm an optimist. I would say yes with a caveat. They, Battle of Blackwater, Battle of Hardhome,
real people walking around on a real set doing real things.
Okay. They've shown that they can do epic battles. They can do really nifty shots, swoop around. They can cover different aspects of the battlefield. and so they demonstrated all this wonderful thing. The big issue for me with the Battle of Winterfell is they phoned it in
Really badly.
badly, and that's also where the caveat comes in. Because they themselves said they handed an outline off to the director. They phoned it in. They gave it to the director. The director was stuck on set going, well, we got this outline. This would look cool. Okay, let's do this. And, people say stuff. Like,
But beyond that, they had to be in on all of the decisions, from making it so dark you couldn't see anything so they could cheap out on the makeup effects. And let's be honest, that's what happened with the zombies. Making the sky battle so, like, completely blurred by rain and snow and sleet and wind, and desaturated and dark, so you can't really tell what dragon's what until they zoom in close enough to see the blue screened rider of the dragon or the blue flame coming out of the dragon's mouth. My problem here is that while they've shown that they can do drama, done drama great. They've done, like, okay, let's just use Solo for an example here, because I think this breaks down really well, probably better than some of the other Star Wars films for where I think their talents are lacking. So, incoming spoilers for Solo, a Star Wars film, if you haven't seen it yet, but it's been a while, and come on, you're listening to me, you should have watched it by now. It's really good. Anyway, okay, so the initial fight at the Spice Mines of Kessel, I have absolute confidence that they could do that. When the robot rebellion breaks out and everybody's fighting and all that's going on, and Lando's heart's being broken because his robot lady might be dying, which was weird, but it's Lando, I'll roll with it, because he is the love commander after all. But I completely, I'm okay with that. I can see them doing that, right? I can see them doing that fine. Star Wars, always. Like, it would not feel like a Star Wars fight, a Star Wars movie, if there wasn't a ship-to-ship dogfight in the movie. Everything that happens after that, when they're running away from the Empire and they're flying through all of the wiggity-wiggity stuff, and then the big, I don't know, black hole monster thing attacks them, and all the TIE fighters and whatnot. I don't believe that they could do any of that. And then they'd be able to do the stuff at the end with Infant's Nest and stuff. But Star Wars without space battles isn't Star Wars. It's ground battles. That's a different franchise. And you have to know that the people at Lucasfilm realize that, because even Rogue One has a space battle in it. It doesn't require a space battle. That space battle doesn't technically need to be there for the plot. It's a very simple fix, and probably one of the things that they reshot for Gareth Edwards' original, where they probably just had the fight on Scarif, and then the signal got beamed out, and the Tantive V4 picked it up, and then started racing to get it, right? That's probably how it worked more in the original, because that actually makes sense with the story that they were building up to that point. And then Kathleen Kennedy and everybody else at Lucasfilm went, this is ground battles. We're making a Star Wars film. It's not Star Wars without the Star Wars. I mean, from the Clone Wars to Rebels, even in Resistance, they have space battles. They're an integral and necessary thing that makes Star Wars what it is. Like, this is where you get, I think, one of the better ones in Star Wars, because it didn't fit in the plot for Revenge of the Sith, so they put it right at the beginning. So it's still in there, because this is a Star Wars. They couldn't do Danny and John just flying over the pretty hills so that they can go make out while the dragon creepily watches. Because Drogon a voyeur, yo.
Yeah.
Drogon, like, that creepy voyeur that, like, you're making out with your bestie and you look out the window and you're like, I have to keep doing this or we're going to die.
Now, there's a handful of people out there that have that pet. The dog, the cat, the one that sits at the edge of the bed watching the whole time, staring, and you're just like, dude, I should have kicked him out of the room.
But it's not a dragon.
No, it's not a creepy dragon, but, it's still the creepy pet that's just, like, staring.
Yeah, but they couldn't
like,
even
whoa.
do them flying around on the dragon's wall.
Yeah. I
Think about it. I mean, even in that episode where we're not even dealing with a battle, right? That is a confused and messed up scene. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't follow in the flow of the episode at all. They just suddenly realized, oh crap, we're going to have Jon Snow riding on a dragon in the next episode fighting the Night King. We need to get that out of the way and show that he can ride a dragon. And so they just slapped this weird, let's have him and Dany do one of the worst knockoff dragon flight scenes I've ever seen in my life, and made me want a Dragonflight movie or TV series even more, because when Lessa and Flar are flying around and the whole thing happens and the dragons go boom chaka like a boom, oh my goodness, like one of the best scenes in the book, because it's just so exciting. And it's a weird dragon love scene. They couldn't even get that right. Like, they even had, literary Cliff's notes on how to do it.
Yeah.
In a popular series, and they couldn't pull it off. And that's just where I'm just desperately freaking out about handing over the next trilogy to them. Because, okay, well, they might be able to get the politics right and the drama right and all of that. And presumably, they're going to hand them, this is my personal theory, they're handing them the Knights of the Old Republic comics and the Knights of the Old Republic game and saying, do something that's kind of cross between these. Because we know that your main talent is in converting existing overly Baroque lore into a cogent series. That way there's something surprising, because think about it, if Revan and Exar Kun and, Ulic Qel-Droma all exist in the same kind of universe, that's a much more interesting film in the end.
I mean, those are valid points, and that's why I could only go as strong as I think they'll do well with a caveat, because, like I said, this last one was disturbing. They had, things happen for writerly reasons. Like, this is 101 basics. Writers shouldn't do this, because it wasn't what the characters would do. They had characters get stupid and do, like the Dothraki charge, because it looked cool. It did look cool, but you know what? That was like, Daenerys would not take cavalry and charge them off into their destruction. They would.
She especially wouldn't do it for the Dothraki. If you haven't watched Hank Green's video about this, go to Hank's channel. It's not on the Vlogbrothers channel. It's on Hank's personal YouTube channel, and watch his theory, because he's kind of where I am, where he's theorized 4 ways that the Dothraki weren't just genocided by Daenerys, or the show sucks.
Yeah.
Really good video. You should definitely check it out.
Yeah. And because that's the thing is, like, once again, because Star Wars also has a lot of tactics, and if they're talking Revan, I mean, Revan is genius at that stuff, and so that's also going to be something that, but they've also shown, beautiful battle tactics executed, gloriously.
Without having to use excessive amounts of CG.
Yeah.
I don't even trust them if they went back to the olden days of Star Wars, where they had the motion capture cameras and the X-Wings on, moving pylons so that they would blur in the image and stuff. I don't even trust them to do that right now.
See, this is where I think, this is where I think ILM will hopefully keep things in line. And we have to rely on them to step in and go, okay, So this is because this way Dave could share their vision and script and stuff, and then Alan can go, okay, we're gonna make this happen with the ships, and make it happen right, because they do every time.
Hopefully. So, for those of you who are confused that I'm assuming that they are working on a Knights of the Old Republic or an Old Republic series trilogy, I believe it was Bob Iger. It was one of the muckety mucks at Disney, not at Lucasfilm, over at Disney, who made a weird offhand statement during their earnings call that he said something to the effect of, the future of Star Wars is something really old. Okay, you're doing the Old Republic. Like, it just... Okay, we get it. You hired the Game of Thrones people to do medieval Star Wars. Got it. Okay. Like, it makes sense to me that that's what they're doing. And like I said, I'm kind of hoping they're going to do some kind of a mashup between the comics and the movies. Just because then there will be a chance for surprise. Because if you were to mix the characters of Revan and Exar Kun into one character... and take elements out of both of their stories to make a new character for the actual film universe, for the canon world, that would be the greatest villain Star Wars has ever seen, as long as he kills Bastila and doesn't marry her. What? This is like... Okay, this is...
I was say that's my fault.
Oh no, I despise Bastila.
I trolled him too much over Bastila.
Oh no, everybody knows my epic hatred of Bastila. I've never liked Bastila.
I know.
Why? So yeah, it does make sense that these are the people that you would hire to do that thing, because that's the thing that they're kind of known for doing, right? And that would be really fun, because then you would have the old Sith existing out in the background. You'd have the followers of Frieden Nod that are out there. You'd have the various fractured points of the Jedi, because the Grey Jedi do exist at this point and are kind of doing their own thing. You have the Jedi Council that's kind of doing its own thing on Tython. You know, plus the various other Jedis who are just kind of doing whatever they feel like doing. Nomi Sunrider for the win. Yo. Best character in all of Star Wars, and she deserves a movie, damn it. And I'll stand by that. But it just really concerns me giving them this, because you have to remember, everything leading up to this season of Game of Thrones, they were still kind of closing up plot threads and using unused material from Gur's books. This is kind of their season. This is the season where we really get to see their hand at work, because we're so far beyond Gur's books, and we're so far out that they're not relying on any of the left... Because they recycled some plot threads for the previous season that had technically happened earlier in the story. They didn't use them, they recycled them, had them happen later, right? And so this is really the first time we're getting to see Benioff and Weiss. And I'm blaming it on them, even though, they're not directly the writers of a lot of these episodes. They're not the direct, directors, but they are the showrunners. It's their job to make sure continuity works, to make sure the story works, to make sure it looks good, that it's well acted, and that you can see what's happening in the dark. And I don't care what the cinematographer says with his stupid, you just don't understand. Everything we wanted you to see, you can see in the episode. Yeah, we can't see the bad makeup and the crappy effects that you claimed you needed 2 years and a lot of money to do. Where'd the money go, Benioff and Weiss? Where'd the money go? Like, if you're not going to use the money for the giant dragon and zombie fight, what's going to happen when they get down to King's Landing? Is Cersei suddenly we're going to find out that she's Maleficent and she's just going to turn into a dragon and attack them? What what did you need the money for? And the time? 2 years? Really? 2 years? Really?
Yeah.
And just, I am so frustrated because episode 1 wasn't very good this year. And part of that is that they had written themselves into a hole and they were trying to dig themselves out and had to get everybody where they were and shuffle everybody around. But still, you have 6 episodes. Episode 1 has to be good. You can't take that time. You don't have the time to spare. This is Game of Thrones. If we can have people have important conversations while they're in the brothel having sex, like, where we have to go with, they're really traumatized down in King's Landing, let's do that while Bronn's trying to get it on with 3 half-naked women. Like, this is Game of Thrones. People talk while they walk. People talk while they do everything in Game of Thrones. But no, we're going to have an entire episode that's mostly just longing gazes and eyes looking off. This is where we start to see their hand coming in. That was not a very good episode. Episode 2, it was better. I liked it a lot. It's kind of what I wanted from this series. But they didn't keep that momentum going. It ends with, oh crap, the White Walkers are here. And you know what? You could see them up on top of the ridge. They were right there. You could see them because somehow the light didn't go away. Like, the only way this episode makes any sense at all is if the Night King literally used his magic powers and reached out and made the moon go away. Because you could see them when they first arrived, and then it got really dark, and you couldn't see anything ever again. It's very worrying to me that the future of Star Wars has been put in their hands. And yes, I trust Kathleen Kennedy and I trust Lucasfilm because Disney's not going to lose money on Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they've probably already made their money back for what they paid for it when they bought it. Just between the two.
I believe they already have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've already made their money back. But probably not on paper because that's how the movie industry works. But I'm pretty sure they've made their money back. But they're not going to let it go out to pasture now. They're going to find a way to make it successful. And okay, you can see their hand. They made Gareth Edwards do massive reshoots for Rogue One. They got rid of Lord and Miller off of Solo. And I don't know why. And I need to know why because Lord and Miller have consistently proven that they are geniuses. I mean, just between the Lego Movie and Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
What could they have possibly done to Solo that required them being fired? Like, really? What could they have done? Other than maybe make Bob Iger angry. Maybe they tweeted something Bob Iger didn't like. Because we know he's got a hairpin trigger and stuff like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, I get the trepidation. I get the concern. And like I said, I don't know. Maybe the whatever the fight was going into the beginning of this season, behind the scenes, sucked the joy out of it for them or something and left them going, fine, we're just going to wrap up the show and do this last season and tie up all the loose ends and be done with it. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what we're seeing. I don't know. I've
seen nothing to hint at that. And you think there'd be leaks? Especially about something that big.
I don't know. Maybe not. Because, they may have just sucked it up and been like, we're just going to finish out our contract and then go to the wonderful, glorious realm of the Disney and be done with Hobo. HBO, sorry. I have weird names for it around the house. It's just, I don't know. I just, like I said, of course, back to that optimist, I think we'll find out because when they bring him in on the project, they're not afraid to fire somebody off of it too.
They fired Lord and Miller for whatever crime they committed.
Yeah. And,
I really need to know what that was.
Yeah.
Like, what did they try to do?
It's one of those. I hope that they're.
Oh man. I'm
What?
sorry, I'm going to share. You don't think there was a love scene between Lando and the robot, do you?
Maybe that might have been a step too far. That might have been a step too far.
Because I don't see Ron Howard going, why don't we have Lando want to get down with the robot? Like, that sounds like something that came from Lord and Miller. Like, that sounds like more their thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's almost even more fun speculation is what got them fired. Like, seriously. But, I don't know. It's a ways off. It's going to be a while before we get to see whatever this film ends up being, if it ever happens at all, because they could... I mean, remember the guy, Josh Trank, who did Fan Stick, was supposed to direct The Last Jedi. He was supposed to write and direct The Last Jedi. And then Fan Stick happened, and they fired him unceremoniously. Just like, no.
Yeah.
No, we're not letting you anywhere near our content. And we got the much better... I have to say, much better movie. I don't know what he would have done if he was put in charge, but Rian Johnson made my favorite Star Wars movie. So,
Yeah.
since
Yeah.
it's my favorite, I can't imagine a better one than the one that he ended up making, you know?
Yeah, and that's one of the other splits you get is some of the fans out there are just in it for the spectacle, and
Yeah.
they enjoyed the spectacle of it because there was a lot of grand spectacle, and that's why I still think because I disagree with you a bit on some of the critique of the Battle of Winterfell, because I still give it a good, because it was a spectacle, and there were, yes, a lot of glaring errors, and as you've had to hear me rant for days and days about the battle tactics and how it should have did this, it should have did that. Well, I wasn't the hand of the queen, so I couldn't have helped them survive that better.
And then they realized that the episode was over too quickly and Arya killed the Night King too fast, and so the last 20 minutes is in slow motion. So it feels like it took longer.
Yeah, because they should have broken up with boss battles, because that's what you do with these things.
No. We just need a bunch of zombies doing a Reservoir Dogs in towards an inept wizard who apparently has no magic. What the hell, Bran?
Okay, he is supposed to record history and not be involved in it. And yes, I wish the woods would have stirred and nature came out and just slapped death in the face, but he's supposed to record history and not be involved in it, and he was recording history.
Yes, and I mentioned this in the review from yesterday, but he could have shown them how to make the weird bombs that the Children of the Forest had, because I'm sorry, that wasn't magic. They were throwing grenades. And
that apparently
he could have shown them how to make Valyrian steel. There's no point in him being the memory of the world if no one can know what he knows.
Yeah, but the first Three-Eyed Raven apparently got his handbook from some time historian time travel historian who wandered into their dimension and handed it over, and it said don't interfere no matter what. And they went, okay, I won't interfere no matter what, and just record history.
How much you want to bet we're going to get an episode where we find out that the Mad King was mad because Bran realized all these events had to take place, and he went back and whispered in his ear like he did to his father at the Tower of Joy and made him go crazy?
No, it's probably went mad because wasn't it his brother that became the Three-Eyed Raven? I mean, or uncle.
That was his uncle.
Yeah, I mean, probably went mad because he realized his uncle has all this superior power and vast amounts of knowledge, and went to the other side of the wall where he couldn't talk to him at all and had no access to it. Drive anybody mad.
So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation about whether Benioff and Weiss...
Genie trying to get your fourth wish out of him. Come on, one more! You're useless. I mean... Yeah.
So if you enjoyed our conversation over whether or not Benioff and Weiss can be trusted with a Star Wars series or any series, because I'm really debating their prowess now when they don't have pre-recorded
so
stuff.
Sasha voted no.
Yeah, the dog. If you didn't just hear it, the dog voted no.
Yeah, she stared right at me and said no.
No.
Even
Sasha is on my side.
Still on the side of yes.
The cat is on her side as usual.
Yes, with supervision. Maybe give him a vacation in between.
If you enjoyed this episode and haven't already, and the app that you're listening to us on allows you to rate either this episode or the podcast in general, please do so. Helps us out a lot. If you've got $1 you can throw our way, in the show notes you'll see a link for community support. If you click that, you can join the project at the $1, $5, or $10 levels. That money helps us do everything, so thank you to everybody who does that, and thank you for considering it. If you don't have the money, or just don't feel like doing it right now, that's okay. Trust me, I know broke. I live there, man. But if you know anybody you think would enjoy this podcast, please share it with them. That helps out a bunch too. If you have any questions, comments, or topics, you can hit me up on Twitter. Probably the easiest place to get me because I'm there way too much. I'm C. Dorson on Twitter. You can find links to all my social media over at projectshadow.com. Yeah, I think that's it. And don't forget, if you haven't already, go check out my other podcast, Mask of the Gods, where I read my book to you. If you like my voice, oh, there's so much of my voice there. So much. Until next time, I'm Charlie.
I'm Brian.
And don't forget, have the fun. Bye.